What if I told you that there's a mental technique so powerful that scientists actually tried to suppress it because the results were too immediate, too transformative, and frankly, too threatening to everything traditional psychology had built its reputation on? I know that sounds like the setup to some conspiracy theory, but stay with me here because what you're about to discover has been hiding in plain sight for nearly a century, and the implications are nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that everything you thought was happening to you has actually been happening through you. That every circumstance, every relationship, every opportunity or obstacle in your life wasn't some random occurrence or cruel twist of fate, but rather a precise reflection of signals your mind has been broadcasting without your conscious awareness. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up feeling anxious, and suddenly the entire day seems to conspire against you. Traffic jams, difficult conversations, unexpected problems all piling up one after another. Or perhaps you've experienced the opposite. You feel genuinely confident about something, and almost magically doors start opening, people become helpful, and solutions appear out of nowhere. Most people dismiss these patterns as coincidence or luck, but there's something far more profound at work here. Traditional science has spent centuries convincing us that reality is this solid, unchangeable thing existing independently of our perception, that we're merely observers moving through a pre-existing world, adapting to whatever circumstances come our way. But groundbreaking research from neuroscience, quantum physics, and consciousness studies is revealing something that contradicts everything we've been taught. The world you're experiencing right now isn't separate from you. It's being actively constructed by your beliefs, your emotions, and especially by the subconscious patterns you've been carrying around since childhood. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's where things get really interesting and why this technique caused such controversy in scientific circles. There was a visionary named Florence Scovel Shinn who understood something decades before modern neuroscience could even begin to validate it. She proposed what she called the neuronal field theory, a concept so radical that it made traditional psychologists deeply uncomfortable. She suggested that your brain isn't just passively receiving information from reality. It's functioning as a tuning device, actively selecting which version of reality you experience from an infinite field of possibilities. Think about that for a moment. Your thoughts and emotions aren't just private experiences happening inside your head. According to this theory, they're broadcasting outward like radio signals, collapsing potential into form, literally shaping what shows up in your life. And here's what made scientists so nervous about this approach. Shinn claimed you didn't need years of therapy or complicated interventions to shift your entire reality. You could do it through strategic mental reprogramming, sometimes in a matter of days or even hours. What you're about to discover might completely transform how you understand your own mind and your relationship to everything happening around you. Because once you see how this mechanism actually works. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because understanding what I'm about to share is absolutely critical to grasping why this technique was so controversial. You see, here's the revelation that makes most people uncomfortable when they first hear it. You're not actually in control of your life the way you think you are. In fact, research shows that more than 90% of your daily decisions aren't coming from your conscious, rational mind at all. They're being directed by a hidden operating system that's been running in the background since you were a child, quietly determining what you attract, what you avoid, and what you perceive as possible or impossible in your life. Think about the impact of that for a moment. 9 out of 10. Choices you make today, the words you speak, the way you react to stress, the opportunities you notice or ignore, none of that is really you deciding in the present moment. It's your subconscious playing out patterns that were installed years ago, maybe even decades ago. This hidden layer of your mind stores everything. Every offhand comment your parents made about money when you were 5 years old, every heartbreak you experienced, every moment someone made you feel like you weren't good. Enough. Your subconscious doesn't analyze these experiences or question whether they're still relevant. It simply accepts them as truth and then works tirelessly, relentlessly, to keep that truth alive in your daily experience. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to join this community by subscribing to the channel. What we explore here isn't surface-level content. It's practical wisdom that can genuinely shift your perspective and impact your entire journey forward. This is the hidden mechanism behind why people keep repeating the same relationship patterns, why they can't seem to break through certain financial ceilings, why their best intentions for transformation always seem to collapse back into familiar behaviors. It's not a lack of willpower or discipline. It's because there's a program running behind the scenes that you never knew existed, and it's much more powerful than your conscious desires. But there's an even more fascinating piece to this puzzle that explains why some people seem to live charmed lives while others constantly struggle despite working just as hard. Inside your brain, there's a filter called the reticular activating system, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your reality moment by moment. Right now, as you're reading this, you're being bombarded with billions of pieces of sensory information. Sounds around you, visual stimuli, sensations in your body, possibilities in your environment. Your conscious mind can't possibly process all of that data, so your reticular activating system acts as a gatekeeper, deciding what information gets through to your awareness and what gets filtered out completely. Here's the part that changes everything. The criteria this filter uses isn't logic or objective importance. It's based entirely on what your subconscious believes is relevant to you. If your subconscious holds a belief that opportunities are scarce, your reticular activating system will literally screen out evidence that contradicts that belief. You could walk past the perfect job posting, have a conversation with someone who could change your life, or notice a pattern that would solve your biggest problem, but your brain simply won't register it. The information will be invisible to you, filtered out before it ever reaches your conscious awareness. This is the journey from limitation to possibility, and it starts with understanding what's been running the show all along. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to see what I've been missing." So knowing all of this, the question becomes, how do you actually reprogram that filter? How do you change these deep subconscious patterns that have been running your life on autopilot? Well, this is where most people make a critical mistake, and it's the same mistake that the entire self-help industry has been promoting for decades. They tell you to use positive affirmations. Stand in front of the mirror and declare with conviction, "I am wealthy, I am confident, I am successful." And if you've ever tried this, you know exactly what happens. There's this uncomfortable feeling that rises up inside you, this internal voice that immediately pushes back and says, "No, you're not. Look at your bank account. Look at your situation. This is a lie." That resistance isn't just you being negative or lacking faith. It's actually your subconscious doing exactly what it's designed to do, protecting the beliefs it already holds as truth. When you make a statement that contradicts your current reality, your mind recognizes the dissonance instantly. And here's the hidden truth that scientists observed but rarely talked about, that internal friction doesn't weaken the old pattern, it actually reinforces it. Every time you affirm something you don't genuinely believe, you're creating a micro-rejection that strengthens the very limitation you're trying to overcome. Your subconscious essentially says, "See, you're trying to convince yourself of something false, which means the opposite must be true." This is why so many people spend years repeating affirmations with little to no lasting transformation in their actual circumstances. The impact of this realization fundamentally changes the journey toward real change, because it means you can't force your way past subconscious resistance. You can't argue with it or overpower it through repetition. Those defense mechanisms are too strong, too deeply embedded in your mental architecture. But here's where the revelation happens, and this is precisely what made scientists so uncomfortable when they saw the results. There's a back door into the subconscious that completely bypasses this resistance, and it's surprisingly elegant in its simplicity. Instead of making statements, you ask questions. Now, this might sound too simple to be powerful, but stay with me because the mechanism behind this is absolutely fascinating. The human brain is hardwired in a very specific way. It cannot tolerate an unanswered question. When you encounter a question, your mind automatically begins searching for an answer. It's a psychological compulsion that happens below your conscious awareness. You're not forcing it. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're simply creating a cognitive gap that your brain feels driven to fill. And in doing so, it starts gathering evidence, building connections, reshaping its perception to answer the question you've posed. So instead of affirming, "I have abundance," which triggers doubt and resistance, you ask yourself, why has it become so easy to live with abundance lately? Notice the shift. You're not claiming something your subconscious can argue with. You're assuming it's already happening and inviting your mind to explain why. This bypasses the defense systems completely because there's nothing to resist. The question itself contains the assumption, and your reticular activating system immediately adjusts its filter to start noticing evidence that supports the premise embedded in the question. Your mind begins scanning your environment for proof that abundance is easy, for moments that validate this new perspective, for decisions that align with this reality. Put down, "I'm asking better questions now." When you combine this question technique with a specific state of consciousness, something extraordinary happens. The impact multiplies exponentially, and this is where Florence Scovel Shinn made a discovery that truly unsettled the scientific community. She identified a level of awareness where transformation doesn't feel like work anymore, where manifestation stops being something you're trying to achieve and becomes something that's simply inevitable. She called this the God state, not in any religious sense, but as a reference to the highest vibrational frequency a human being can access. In this state, there's no gap between who you are and who you want to become. There's no separation between desire and fulfillment. You're not hoping for change or wishing for different circumstances. You're already being the version of yourself for whom that reality is present tense. This isn't achieved through mental gymnastics or forced visualization. It emerges naturally when three elements align in your awareness. First, complete presence in this moment, not dwelling on past patterns or anxiously projecting into an uncertain future. Second, elevated emotions that genuinely expand your energy. Feelings like gratitude, peace, or joy that aren't manufactured as a technique, but experienced as a lived reality. And third, total identification with your new identity, where you stop acting like someone waiting for their life to change and start embodying someone who already lives that way. When these three elements converge, the frequency you're broadcasting shifts entirely. The universe stops responding to what you want and starts responding to who you are. If you felt value in what we explored today, just tap that like button. It helps more people discover this content. And honestly, it lets me know this message is landing the way it's meant to. But here's the hidden truth that scientists didn't want becoming common knowledge because of how accessible it makes this entire process. There's a specific moment in your day when all of this becomes exponentially more powerful, and most people completely waste it. I'm talking about the 60 seconds right before you fall asleep. That tiny window of time is one of the most potent opportunities you have to reprogram your entire subconscious architecture. Yet the majority of us spend it scrolling through our phones, replaying the day's stresses, or just drifting off to random, unconscious thoughts. Behind the scenes, something remarkable is happening in your brain during this transition. As you move from wakefulness into sleep, you pass through what's called the hypnagogic state. Your brain waves shift from beta, which is your alert, analytical thinking mode, into alpha and theta patterns. These are the same frequencies your brain operated in when you were a young child, completely open, receptive, absorbing information without any filter or critical analysis. In this state, The barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind essentially dissolves. There's no resistance, no analytical voice pushing back, no defense mechanisms protecting old beliefs. Whatever you impress upon your consciousness in these final moments before sleep goes directly into the subconscious and gets processed throughout the entire night as if it were absolute, unquestionable truth. This is precisely why the technique was considered too powerful by conventional psychology. It provides direct access to reprogram your reality blueprint during a window that occurs naturally every single day. And once you understand how to use it strategically, the journey toward lasting transformation accelerates in ways that seem almost impossible. Write in the comments, "I'm taking back my 60 seconds." So here's exactly how you use this window strategically. Before bed, the first thing you do is disconnect completely from any distractions. Put the phone away, turn off the screens, create a space of genuine quiet. Then breathe deeply and consciously relax every part of your body. You're not trying to force anything here. You're simply bringing yourself into a state of peace and presence. Once you're in that relaxed state, here's where the transformation actually happens. You don't visualize your desire like you're watching a movie in your mind. Instead, you enter the feeling of it already being fulfilled. Not the feeling of wanting it or hoping for it, but the actual emotional state you would experience if it had already happened. What would peace feel like? What would freedom feel like? What would genuine confidence or abundance feel like in your body, in your chest, in your nervous system? Let that emotion fill you completely, and then at the peak of that feeling, when it's most alive in your awareness, you ask your question, not as a plea or a wish, but as a genuine inquiry, framed as if the reality is already present. Why has everything been flowing so perfectly lately? Or, what shifted in me that made this transformation so natural? The question assumes fulfillment. It bypasses doubt entirely because you're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're simply asking your mind to explain something that, in this moment, feels real. And then, this is critical, you fall asleep in that state. You don't return to worry. You don't start analyzing or second-guessing. You let that frequency, that emotional reality, be the last signal you broadcast before your consciousness shifts into the subconscious realm. During the night, while you're sleeping, this vibration gets processed, integrated, and reorganized as part of your mental structure. You wake up different, even if you don't consciously notice it at first. Your decisions throughout the day start shifting. Your responses to challenges change, the filter adjusts. When you repeat this practice consistently, night after night, your subconscious begins accepting this new identity as truth. And that's when the external world has no choice but to mirror it back to you. But here's where the real acceleration happens. And this is the piece that ties everything together. Transformation isn't just about what you do in those 60 seconds before sleep. It's about creating total coherence between your internal state and your external actions throughout your entire day. When there's alignment between who you're being internally and how you're showing up externally, manifestation stops being some distant goal and becomes immediate, almost inevitable. This is about maintaining that vibrational frequency you cultivated before bed and carrying it into your waking decisions. If you're embodying prosperity, how does that version of you organize their morning? If you're embodying confidence, how does that person respond when facing a small challenge or an unexpected obstacle? These aren't grand, dramatic gestures. They're micro-actions, subtle behavioral adjustments that send continuous confirmation signals to your subconscious saying, "This is who I am now." And as you hold this alignment, remaining open to unexpected pathways and opportunities that don't look like what you originally imagined, reality begins, bending toward your new frequency with surprising speed. Put down, "I'm aligning my actions with my identity." The reason this works so rapidly, why scientists were uncomfortable with how fast people could shift their entire reality using this method, comes down to something most people don't understand about the relationship between consciousness and time. We've been conditioned to believe that meaningful change requires months or years, that transformation is this slow, gradual process of incremental improvement. But that's only true when you're working against your subconscious programming. When you're fighting resistance, trying to force yourself to change through willpower alone, then yes, it takes forever and rarely sticks. But when you align your internal frequency with your desired reality and maintain that coherence consistently, the timeline collapses in ways that seem almost impossible from a conventional perspective. Think about it this way. Every moment you spend in vibrational alignment with your new identity is a decision your subconscious registers as evidence. It's not just one big declaration. It's 1,000 small confirmations throughout your day. The way you respond to an email, the tone you use when speaking to yourself internally. Whether you choose the action that matches who you're becoming or the one that keeps you stuck in who you've been. Each of these micro-decisions is either reinforcing the old pattern or building the new one, and your subconscious is tracking all of it behind the scenes, updating its understanding of who you actually are. This is why the journey from intention to manifestation can happen in a compressed time frame when you understand the mechanism. You're not waiting for the universe to deliver something external to you. You're becoming the person for whom that reality is natural. And as you embody that frequency more consistently, your reticular activating system adjusts, your decisions shift, and the external circumstances begin reorganizing themselves to match your internal state. Opportunities you wouldn't have noticed before suddenly become visible. Conversations take unexpected turns. People respond to you differently because you're broadcasting a different signal. But here's the hidden truth that separates people who experience real transformation from those who just keep consuming information without ever changing. It's not enough to understand this intellectually. You have to actually live it, moment by moment, decision by decision. The impact isn't in knowing the technique, it's in applying it with unwavering consistency until your subconscious has no choice but to accept this new version of you as the default setting. That means when doubt creeps in, and it will, you don't entertain it. You return to the question. You return to the feeling. You return to the actions that match your new identity. And as you do this, something shifts behind the scenes that you might not even consciously recognize at first. Your nervous system starts to relax because you're no longer in conflict with yourself. There's no more internal war between who you want to be and who you're being. You're just consistently showing up as that person, and your entire system begins to reorganize around that truth. Write in the comments, "I'm choosing alignment every moment." If you've made it this far, I want you to know that says something important about you. You're not just passively consuming content. You're genuinely on a path of transformation, seeking the deeper truths that actually create lasting change in your life. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of person I create these videos for. If this resonated with you, if something clicked or shifted while you were watching, I'd love for you to join this community by subscribing to the channel. Because what we explore here isn't surface-level advice or recycled motivation. It's practical wisdom that bridges consciousness, neuroscience, and real-world application. The kind of content that can genuinely impact your decisions, your mindset, your entire journey forward. And when you subscribe, you're making sure you don't miss the next revelation that might be exactly what you need to hear at exactly the right moment. Also, leave a comment down below saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you were here until the end." I read every single comment, and it creates this beautiful connection, knowing we're all walking this path together, supporting each other's transformation. And if you felt value in what we explored today, just tap that like button. It helps more people discover this content, and it lets me know this message is landing the way it's meant to. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into how your mind creates reality in ways you probably haven't considered yet. Click and continue with me over there. I promise it's worth your time. I'll see you in the next one.